So my dad played at Florida State and was an All-American and then just bounced around in the league a little bit. Never really got his feet settled and had a bunch of injuries. So once he had my brother and I, he was my coach for everything. And he was my brother's coach for football. And I'm only 2 years older than my brother. So I was my dad's water girl, whatever you wanted me to be, I was for him. And so when my brother got into high school, when I wasn't in season, I would come and just help my dad out. He was a O-line coach, but just I was just constantly immersing myself in it. And where I'm from Belgrade, and that's religion. Football is religion where I live. So it's something that I've always been around. I was new. I always loved. My mom was a principal of a high school, so I went to every high school football game until I started to play sports myself. So just always constantly being around it. It's embedded in me, and it's something that I was like, I really am passionate about it. Why not try to pursue it? There's not a lot of women doing it, and thank God Coach Harbaugh gave me an opportunity.
Yeah, when did it kind of hit you? Like, you know what? I wonder if I can maybe get into this coaching football. Did what got you interested? And when it, I guess simply put, when did the timeline kind of hit? When did you start thinking, hey, I think I should look into this?
Um, this past summer, uh, just as a way for me to make money and just pass by some time while I was here because I didn't go home. I was here for summer workouts before the season. And one of the football guys I was really close to was like, hey, there's like little league football, it's flag football, and they're looking for coaches. You know football, why don't you try? And I met with the CEO of the company, and he was like, yeah, sure, like you're an athlete, sure, like go ahead and do it. And I was coaching little kids and up until sixth grade. So I had kindergartners and I had sixth graders. And I loved every bit of it. And I got such great feedback. And I was like, I can really do this. I'm really passionate about this. I really love it. And I found myself finding so much joy when I did it. So I was like, why not try and actually be a GA, try to see what it feels like to be at the highest level or at an elite level. And I was like, let me try to reach out to coaches. So originally I was just emailing a lot of people, trying to see if they have GA spots open, didn't get much feedback, and then reached out to Coach Harbaugh, and it was up from there.
Yeah, I know your brother. He's there at Michigan as a defensive end. In fact, I saw Coach Harbaugh was pretty high on him going into this season, saying he's going to be our next Aidan Hutchinson, which is lofty praise considering, Aidan, I guess, might be the number one draft pick potentially coming up. But um, to see not only are you jumping into coaching, I know everybody's focusing on, a female being an assistant coach, but also what's so cool about it is you're going to be on the same team in the same program working around your brother. I mean, you hardly ever get to see siblings working together at a high level in anything, in business and sport and athletics. But to be doing it at Michigan during what is, probably a big year for both of you personally, just what does that mean to you?
Well, it means so much. My brother and I are really close, and we've always grown up that way. And I think it's a cool opportunity. I'll be kind of competing against him for majority. Uh, he's on defense, but we've always had that sibling rivalry, and we've always been so close at the same time. So honestly, this will just be like full circle moment, us being together again. Um, we didn't go to the same high school, or most
Oh,
of the
yeah.
time in school we were so many years apart that we barely would see each other. But this opportunity is crazy. I'm actually really excited, and also to see him grow at the same time. I mean, I watched him go in, and he's transformed his body. His work ethic is insane, and I'm really proud of him. And now he has to call me coach too, so I love that part.
I was gonna say, like, did you when you were talking to Coach Harbaugh, do you ever think, hey, maybe I don't want to work with quarterbacks. Maybe let me work with the defensive ends, the pass rushers.
I don't think my brother would like that much if I was to do that. And also, I like to score points. I've always been that way. Even the way that I play basketball, I'm a shooter, so I love to score. And being on the offense side of the ball is probably where I would thrive the most, anyway.
Yeah, I saw where you led Georgetown in scoring this year, and I think I mean, you're a 3-point specialist. It looked like I think 80 plus of your 120 made shots this year beyond the arc. And I was reading an interview someone did with you recently where you didn't really get into basketball until you were like in eighth grade. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't until about eighth grade. I actually played baseball first, and then that transformed into softball as I got older, and started to get really competitive. But yeah, I didn't touch a basketball until latter part of middle school, and didn't really play AAU until about latter part of middle school. So I got into it really late, but the speed of it, the everything about it, I just loved. In comparison to like a softball or baseball where it's a little slow. But I played catcher, so I was always in the action. But in
Yeah.
basketball, everyone can make an impact, which I absolutely love. So that's what really made me fall in love with it.
So you're calling the action really in every sport you've participated in. At catcher, you're helping the pitcher, maybe call with some call signs, and
Mm.
in basketball playing at guard and facilitating potentially, and then now football, you're going to be coaching, helping coach quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, and everything I like to do, I like to be the best in it. And maybe that's just the way that my parents taught me, and both of them being really competitive and hardworking individuals. I never like to be someone who wasn't in the spotlight. Not that I seek the spotlight, but I love to be in the action. I love that pressure, and I usually play my best when there's a pressured situation. So that was the goal going into anything, was be the best at whatever it is. And I've always been pretty high IQ. I mean, never the most athletic kid. So I always had to rely on my mind to make things happen. And those positions, I was always in a position to use my IQ. And yeah.
So when you get to Michigan here, I guess in June after you graduate there, and by the way, congrats on goodness gracious getting 2 degrees already, going in to try to get your third potentially at Michigan. When you get there to Michigan, uh, how much, I guess, when you go in, how much do you know coming in, and how much do you have to learn before you kind of get on the field there when preseason practices start in August and September?
So they've sent me a lot of stuff. I actually just got the playbook, stuff like that. So I'm really learning as much as I can before I go. So it's really fresh right now, considering I just got what I need to know going in. But in reference to my foundation, I feel like I'm very confident in what I know just about the game. I mean, probably my biggest uh probably downside is that maybe like the language I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know if once I see it, I'll know exactly what it is and put like name to face kind of thing. But I'm just getting the information, so it's really fresh right now. But give me a little bit and I'll figure it out.
I think that's a common misconception among fans and everything. They think that football is pretty complicated, but you're exactly right. It's like learning another language. And once you start matching things up, it becomes easy and you're like into it in a week.
Right.
You feel like you're part of it. Yeah.
Right.
So how's your brother reacting to all this? And I mean, how long's it been since you guys have lived in the same town for that matter?
It's been a while. I left in 2017 and we haven't lived together since.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a little bit of time. But he's super supportive. Like I said, me and Mike are really, really close, and we have been since kids. That's one thing that my mom really prided herself on. She has 5 siblings, so all of them are really close, and that's just how we grew up. And we talk every day. He knew when it happened. He was also talking to Coach Harbaugh, Coach Matt Weiss, and Coach Sean Moore about it as well. Before I fully knew what I was gonna do, he was already talking to them. So he's super, super supportive and really proud of me, which I love, because now I'm going into his stomping grounds. So he's been schooling me in some things too, and I'm super grateful that we'll be able to do it together.
I know it's early yet. I mean, is coaching football something you want to do in the future, or is it just coaching in general that really interests you as far as your future?
So I would say originally, before I really was like pinpointed football, I loved coaching in general. I love the idea of like developing someone as a whole, their body, their mind, um, So it was originally just coaching overall because I was looking at both football and basketball. But I think right now my eyes are really locked in on football, considering it's something I always have loved. I watch it more than I watch basketball. So right now I'm definitely locked in on football. Ideally, my goal is to be a position coach because I do love being able to transform somebody's game into the best version of themselves. And was able to do a couple of things with a lot of elite coaches in the past week. So that's been really fun for me. So really just being able to evolve someone's game is my goal. And then maybe one day be, I don't know, OC, who knows, but definitely a position coach is my goal right now. I love player development and I love getting players better. And that's always been something I enjoyed about myself. Just attention to detail that's involved in it. So yeah.
Who'd you get to chat with this past week? You mentioned they're talking to some coaches.
Um, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, but it was a
Okay.
coach who is a super genius, and maybe if it comes out, I'll be able to say. But yeah.
Okay. So I mean, we're seeing across sports barriers being broken, and thankfully that's opened doors for others to be able to, I say easy, it's not easy, but to more easily get in and to where, we're getting to a point now where it's not like, oh, a woman is coaching in football because we're seeing it in the NFL. We're seeing it in college now with you as a grad assistant. I believe even at Brown University, the quarterback's coach there, she's been there for a few years. So have you reached out to any of them, or have they reached out to you, or is it like a situation where it's not even that big of a deal, or do you seek any guidance from them at all?
Oh, absolutely. Last year I reached out to Coach Lowe on the Bucks, and I talked to her just about her experience, and she's been someone who's been amazing. I talked to Coach Jennifer King this past week, and I'm going to meet with her this week coming up. And Sophia Lewin, who was at Princeton, who's now with the Bills. So I've talked to quite a few, and they've been super awesome. And also just like putting me on game just about football, about what I'm going to get myself into, especially being a woman, and also some like seminars and things that I can go to that will help enlighten me. So they've been super, super helpful. I mean, the community of women has been super tight, and we want each other to succeed. And I'm super grateful that me being young and them wanting to help me out has been super helpful.
Any public platform where you go in and work, whether it's sports or even in business or anything like that, there's always critics. And you said that like you have to prepare yourself for that as well. What were they sharing with you as far as just like the things you have to deal with as far as, when people say, oh, a woman is here coaching college football. And I mean, I guess it would be similar for that for anybody going into a sport or a business that's dominated by one sex or another.
Um, well, one of the big emphasis was like just how hard I'd have to work. I mean, working that much harder, the expectation. I mean, they have low expectations, but high expectations at the same time. Um, Not many people think that women know what they're talking about, but also like can't mess up either. So it's just really just staying focused and locked in. And then the professionalism side of it, just making sure that what I'm putting out is the best image of myself. And those are two of the biggest takeaways that I've had so far. And then just other things just about just how the game is, and
Yeah.
like the X's and O's part of the game, things that I wasn't familiar with, some of the language that I'm not familiar with. So they've been teaching me things like that, and I've been really grateful for it.
I mentioned that interview you did earlier, and it just really grabbed me when you talked about you're going into your junior year and how you were dealing with a coaching change at Boston College, and then all of a sudden you were kind of on the bench and you had to deal with that, and not necessarily just from a an ego standpoint and being able to go out and help a team, but from a mental standpoint, because every coach treats players differently, and all of a sudden you go from what you're doing as a freshman to what you're doing as a junior, and you said you dealt with some hurdles there mentally. Can you go more into that, like what you dealt with and what you learned during that time?
Absolutely. So my freshman year, I played really, really well. I was on the All ACC team, All ACC freshman team. I think I was runner up for rookie of the year. So I was coming off a high. I did really well. And then my sophomore year, we got a coaching change. And right when she came in, she basically said that if I wanted to perform under her, I had to like lose X amount of weight. And if I didn't, I wouldn't play. And essentially was insinuating that because of my weight, I'll be susceptible to a lot of injuries and things like that. And I played at the same weight my whole career. So that was really, really difficult for me. And I actually spiraled into like depression and actually developed an eating disorder because of it. And no, I won't say it's entirely her fault, because I mean, my perception is ultimately how I'm going to feel, but that really took a toll on me is essentially what I'm going to say. And my sophomore year, I didn't really play. My junior year, I started. So I'm like, okay, I overcame this hurdle. I did it. And then I didn't play again after about Christmas. So it was really high and low. And I just couldn't figure out what the issue was. And I really had to decide at that point if I'm going to be miserable doing what it is that I'm doing, going to practice every day, workouts, extra conditioning, whatever. Am I going to be miserable doing it, or am I going to like be the best teammate I can be and bring the most energy? And that became my mindset. So going into Georgetown, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I know I'm going to work hard and I'm going to bring great energy, and end up starting just a couple games after I came, and then leading and scoring this year. And that's all because of just how that situation really molded me mentally. I was really, really down and having to rely heavily on my faith. And I really am really blessed to have gone through those hardships, because it humbled me, one, and it just allowed me to relate to so many different kinds of people. I'm able to talk to the best on the team, and I'm able to talk to the kid that doesn't get any playing time, and they respect me the same because they understand that I've been through it all. So I think that it's really going to allow me to be the best coach that I can be, because I think that I'll be able to really be specific to each athlete and understand them individually. And that's something that throughout my evaluation of each coach that I had, the ones that I related to most, the ones that I was closest to, were the ones that understood me at my core. Yeah. And so because of that experience, I think that that's an asset that I definitely bring, is that I'll be able to communicate. I'll be able to bring that energy, and I'll understand, what these athletes are going through mentally, and best help them get through their mental hurdles.
How overlooked do you think that is, just as far as what the job is as a coach? Because, writers and interviewers and people like me, we just sit here and worry about what results on a quarter on the football field. But I mean, every person is different, and they're all going through their own things mentally. And as you said, I mean, I don't know exactly your deeper story, but as you said, you don't necessarily blame the coach, but no one really knows what it takes to push someone into a darker place. It could be a little thing or it could be a big thing, and you just never know. And every athlete is dealing with so much stress, especially on an amateur level, when you're only having to deal with results on the field and trying to play, but also, goodness gracious, you got classes to deal with too, and relationships and friendships. So when you look back at your own career and you're going forward, do you think that maybe gets overlooked quite a bit, from a public perception, and maybe that needs to be addressed more?
I definitely think it gets overlooked. And actually it's funny that you said that, because I'm doing my capstone paper on creating a program to like help coaches communicate and interact with their players that do go through mental and like eating disorders. Yeah. But I think it's really overlooked. And to no fault of their own, but I think that coaches don't really understand mental health as much as I feel like they should, especially someone who went through that. I think that if coaches at least went through, I don't know, like maybe a seminar, something with a sports psychologist to better communicate with an athlete, or see like signs of, oh, this person might be going through this person might be anxious, blah, blah. I think that would be super, super helpful, because every athlete, like you said, is super different. And some athlete might need a hug when you talk to them and when you're giving them instruction, or someone can go and be fine with a slap in the face, So I think everyone is specific, and sometimes coaches coach in one way and don't really specify their instruction in ways that each athlete can receive it. And I think that's something that you learn as you go. But I think if there was some program, which I hopefully can come up with, if there's a program that will help these coaches just communicate a little bit better, I think it would be a lot easier for these athletes. And that can hopefully maybe just something where I bridge the gap between athlete and coach. And that would be, I think that's really it. Just understanding how your athlete ticks, and boom, I think every program would thrive.
Yeah, you're exactly right about you got to coach. You don't coach everybody the same way. That's an absolute recipe for failure, not just on the court, but also just, I mean, dealing with everybody's, their mind and where they're at. So, going back to a couple of years ago when you were going through all that, was the pandemic going on at that point? I mean, it's still going on, but was the pandemic starting up about then, or maybe I got my timeline incorrect there?
So when I was going through what I was going through, it was right before the pandemic. So the pandemic happened the end of my junior year.
Okay.
She came the year before. So that's when a lot of the issues were happening. And some of it was we would have run testing and all these different tests, and we'd have to weigh in every Monday. So that's when the struggle hit most for me, because I'm like, okay, we have to weigh in. So she's already telling me I'm too heavy. So now I have to weigh in. So I wouldn't eat. I just wouldn't eat. And then I would be doing extra conditioning. So I'm not eating and then trying to burn my body out. Not a good mix.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the toughest things. And then when COVID hit, that's when I was actually able to figure out how to get my mind right, which in turn really helped me out.
It gave you more time to focus on yourself, it sounds like.
Right.
Man, that must have felt like every week kind of like a countdown, a ticking clock in your head. Like it's because it's happening at this time and this day, and you're just dreading it.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to that in some way, somehow. So what's your degree going to be in June? What are you wrapping up at Georgetown?
Sports management, basically.
Yeah. Okay. It's a master's?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And what are you going to be working on at Michigan? Do you know yet?
Public policy.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. You're so much smarter than 95% of the planet. Wow. So I'm sure have you been to Ann Arbor?
Oh yeah. A bunch of times, just visiting my brother.
Yeah. It's a good little town. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. Boston was a city of its own, a major city in the US. So Chestnut Hill was not really a college town. It was more like very suburban and a family town. DC is a major city in itself as well. So Georgetown is it's its own thing, but
it's own like suburb type thing. Yeah.
When you go out into the city, there's more. I haven't been to just a college town yet, so I'm actually really excited, and I like the homey feel. Like everyone loves Michigan, and I love that. So I'm really excited, and it's quiet, and I think that's something that I really like. It reminds me of home. I'm from a little country town in South Florida, so just coming from that, I love the slowness of it and how it's really homey.
I'll wrap this up here real quick, so I know the game's either back in or going on or not. But so have you talked to any of the other players at Michigan yet, or have any of them reached out to you?
I've talked to JJ, some wide receivers who I've known just through mutual friends. They've reached out, but I think majority of the guys I don't know, but I definitely know a lot of the skill groups that I'll be working with, which I'm really excited about. And just being on the phone with my brother, he's introduced me to a lot of people so far this week. So, and then I'll definitely have to learn the roster. So I've been looking at that, trying to make sure I know names when I go.
Are you ready for people to start reaching out to you over this next year, asking for guidance and seeing you as an example to follow?
I think that's what I'm most excited about. I definitely want this to become something normal. And I know it obviously won't happen overnight, but I'm really excited to just pay it forward. I know that like I'm a very spiritual person. And I know that what I put out into the world, I'm definitely going to get back. So I'm really excited to just teach people as much as I know. And no matter who they are, I'm excited to just teach and learn. I'm excited to learn from anyone that I encountered, even the guys. And that's one thing that I pride myself on. I think that the best teachers are the ones that learn from their students and able to just relate and have an open mind to everything. So I'm just really excited about that.
And they better hope they don't try and, let you know that they have like a pickup basketball
Oh
league
yeah,
going on either.
it's over. It's over. They have a little hoop in the weight room. I'm gonna be on that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.